Hi, everyone. I'm Tran Bowie. Thank you so much for joining us today. Health insurance, it is something that doesn't come up in conversation much, but maybe it should, especially now. So joining me now is Joe Avena, better known as the insurance guy Joe, right? So Joe, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so let's look at your credentials. Like what you have a big, I feel like you have a big fan base. A lot of people know you. So what is your background?
It's somewhat of a long story, but I'm going to keep it short. I've been doing this for a little over 3 years now. Prior to that, I was an operations manager at UPS for 19 years. And that's kind of how I got into this. I was looking for a change, just got tired of the work-life balance. And ironically enough, in my quest to find new employment, my time off, I got that dreaded letter saying, "Hey, congratulations, you no longer have coverage. You can go on Cobra." And when I saw that, how expensive that was and what my other options were, that's basically kind of what got me in the pursuit of, are there more affordable health coverage options out there for individuals, families, and small businesses?
Okay, so you have firsthand knowledge. So your title is benefits specialist and you're with US Health Advisors, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's start. I'm just wondering, because of COVID-19, are people like looking at protecting themselves more or rethinking what they need to do? And if so, how?
I think people are. Um, I hate to say, unfortunately, because of it. Okay, I think health insurance is something that people have always needed. All right, as far as insurance originally was designed to be there for the major things, the catastrophic events, right? It's designed to protect you and your family financially in the event something major happens that, you've worked your whole life to, save for retirement. And then if you didn't have health coverage, or at least enough health coverage, should something major happen, all of that's at jeopardy. It's at risk. Okay. Now, COVID-19 is certainly, made people actually reevaluate their current coverage. Do I have enough coverage? If the worst were to happen, is my family protected? And are we protected financially from, worst case scenario, having to file for bankruptcy?
Right. So I will admit, I do not know that much about health insurance. I know that I have it. I have the card. I know who to call. I know where I can go. But I wonder if there are a lot of other people out there in the same position. Like we know we have it. We know we need it to have it, but we really don't know much about it. So can we just start with the basics and tell us like what types of plans or coverage are available?
That's a great question. Um, basically, there's kind of four different types. There's marketplace plans, which they go under ACA, which stands for Affordable Care Act. Okay, has the nickname Obamacare. Now, those are available to individuals online, typically through healthcare.gov, but they're also available to through small businesses or even big businesses. The group plans that people say, "Oh, I have something through my employer," that's an ACA plan. Okay. There's also private plan options. Now, some of those are available online, but the vast majority are not. Okay, those tend to have, depending on your situation, they can offer much better coverage at a more affordable rate. Most people don't even know they exist. There's also cost sharing plans, and there's kind of two different categories of that. But the biggest one that most people are familiar with are the religious-based ones. Those that has to do with the concept of everybody putting money into a pool and then that being doled out based on benefits in the plan. The only issue with those, sometimes they're great for people that have them for the little things. Sometimes they run into issues for the big things. Okay. The other option is short-term options, and those are ones that are designed to be gap plans. Okay, when the ACA initially came out and they put restrictions on when people could enroll, right? They had enrollment period only or qualifying events. If people were without coverage and did not fit a qualifying event, they either had to wait till the next open enrollment, but that left them uninsured. So short-term plans kind of filled that gap. They basically just gave you coverage in the event something major happened. There were no other benefits for wellness or sick visits or things like that. So that's basically the 4 different types.
Okay. So I'm glad you broke it down. So then how do we choose? Because there are so many choices. How do we choose which one works best for us or would benefit us?
Well, it's always a good idea to have a trusted healthcare professional, okay? Somebody that is actually looking out for your best interest and not theirs, okay? But then, ideally you want to take some notes. What's important to you, right? What do you want your coverage to do for you? Oftentimes, whether it be through the marketplace or through an employer, maybe we're given 1, 2, or 3 options at best, and they're kind of cookie cutter plans. They're designed to fit a mass of people and not necessarily be specific to your needs. So write down what is important to you. Do you want high copays, low copays, no copays? Do you want a high deductible, low deductible, no deductible? Okay. Do you want to be able to see your providers, right? Oftentimes we have a preferred provider that maybe you've been seeing for years, or your kids have a pediatrician that they've been seeing. Do the plans that are offered, are those providers in their network? So make a list of what your wants are out of the plan, and try to find plan that fit those needs.
And that's where you come in. I do like that, because then you can kind of guide us and tell us. So with these health plans, like, what is usually covered? Or does it all vary depending on each one?
It certainly does vary depending on each one. The ACA plans, they're supposed to cover, I say pretty much everything, as much as everything as you can. Now, they do certainly have some guidelines, all right? ACA plans, some good things, clearly, since they opened them up to people with existing conditions, they have to accept everybody. Okay. Unfortunately, they also cannot discriminate based on health. So what that means is a healthy individual pays the same premium as somebody that's not as healthy. Okay. And for the insurance companies to stay viable, right, to be in business, over the course of time, what we've seen in the last 8 to 10 years was premiums go up significantly, deductibles go up significantly. And as a result, they may cover things, but you know what? You may find that the first $8,000 are not covered, because that's the deductible you have to satisfy before the plan pays benefits. So it just really depends on the plans, but there's also underwritten plans that they're specific to, if you can qualify with your health, they've got great benefits. But by qualifying with your health, they may not provide benefits for certain things, okay? Certain things that people may want, maybe mental health, maternity, or drug and alcohol rehabilitation. Right. Well, if you're past the point where you're looking, you don't want any more kids at that time, you've got a full family, you may not need those particular benefits. Well, marketplace plans force you to pay for those benefits whether you need them or not. Private plans, a lot of the private plans do not, and that's how they're able to kind of structure a better coverage for less.
Okay, and we can see, and then how does the choosing doctors work? That also depends on the plan, like who you can see and who you should or should not see.
Well, that depends. If you don't have a primary care physician that you've been seeing for years and you're open to whatever's available, you know what? Then you're limited to the doctors in their network, okay? And the ACA plans, in order to help control costs, the vast majority of them, not all of them, but the vast majority of them are HMOs, especially here in Georgia, which stands for Health Managed Organization. And that just means for them to control costs, they have a set number of primary care physicians, call them gatekeepers, in a particular zip code. So based on where you live, they'll say, hey, look, here's 5 or 6 doctors to choose from to be your primary care, right? Okay. So they'll let you choose, but it's a limited number. Now, once you pick that person, they become your gatekeeper. If you are sick, you're going to go to that physician first. If you hurt your shoulder playing tennis, well, as much as you'd like to go to an orthopedic, you have to go to your gatekeeper to determine whether or not they're going to refer you to a specialist. Because to control cost, if that person can help you, they're going to save the insurance company. They're not going to send you to that specialist unless you need to go.
Okay. And then, so for all of you who are watching right now, if you have any questions for Joe, just type them below, either during this broadcast or if you don't get to catch the live and you want to watch it later, post that on there, and Joe will get you the answers. And so, Joe, you were talking about different things that can happen in lifestyle changes, and say I have some kind of coverage, but then something happens. Am I able to change my coverage in the middle of the year, or in the middle of that plan, or add on? How difficult would that be?
Well, that's there's a lot of information behind that question. Okay. If it really depends on the situation and the plan that you're in. If you're in an ACA plan through your employer or through the individual marketplace, you can't change unless it's during open enrollment. Okay. There are some plans, there's some private plan options depending on the situation that you might be able to change in the middle of a year, if provided you're not in the middle of a claim. Okay, no insurance company is going to let you change in the middle of a claim. But if it's just the middle of the year and you don't like your coverage, yeah, private plan options that are out there, they don't have enrollment periods. So you can sign up for them anytime. You can change from one plan to another. All health insurance, unless it's through an employer that has a contract, they typically will keep you in that plan during the duration of that year. If you're on the individual marketplace or you have a private plan for yourself or your family, you can change at any time. There's no fee to cancel because all insurance policies, they're one-sided in your favor.
And then let's talk about the cost. I mean, how do you go through that process? Like, how do you choose? Because a lot of times we choose things based on cost, not just coverage.
Correct. That is a huge factor. Okay. Oftentimes, if we shop on premium, I hate to say it, you may get what you pay for. Okay. Right. But having said that, how cost for most insurance is determined, it's by three key components. Okay. Zip code, where you live. Okay. Your date of birth and your gender. All right. Because each one of those components have a risk factor assigned to them. Makes sense? The different regions of the country, the cost of coverage could be more or less. So the cost of the insurance could be more or less. An older male has a higher risk factor than a younger male. Okay, mm-hmm. So there's all those factors play a part as to how much the cost of your coverage is. And then of course there's, if you want extra things, right? Do you want dental? Do you want vision? All of that factors into that. But primarily, the premium is dictated based on those three key components.
And that helps to have someone like you who can kind of walk us through it, because I would really have to shop around and really do a lot of research on my own, and sometimes that's overwhelming for people. So let's talk about handling disputes. If that should happen, what are the steps, and how do you go about doing that?
Well, it depends. If clearly, all claims are handled through the insurance company. But if there's an issue with that claim, right, how it was handled, at that point, you definitely, if that person has a trusted advisor or an insurance agent that they're working with, most often than not, that agent's going to lead them through the process. Okay, they're gonna be that liaison. That's what I do for my customers. I'll actually go, hey, I'll contact the insurance company, sometimes with them on the phone and conference call, because oftentimes I call myself the Google translator, right? The insurance company is speaking insurance talk, the customer is speaking like a regular human, and oftentimes they don't understand each other, right? So I'm that middle person that can help facilitate that conversation. So that's typically how I do it. If they bought their insurance, if it's through their employer, well, they may have to go through an HR representative with the company. If it's individual marketplace, then they're just subject to the 800 number for that company. Yeah,
and that's something what I like about you and what you offer. We could be on the phone forever, not ever talking to someone. How do we make sure that doesn't happen? Because, we sign up with an insurance company and we're like, love the plan, love the cost, but can't get anyone to talk to us.
Well, that's, once again, depending on the platform that you use to get the coverage will dictate that. But for me, one of the services that I offer for all of my customers is everybody gets my direct cell phone number. Okay. There are so many things I can do for you on your behalf. Some things I cannot, right? I cannot do anything that's going to adversely impact your premium. Having said that, if you have a simple question, my customers, they know they can text me, they can email me, they can call me. And oftentimes, even if it's something I don't have the answer for, I'm going to save them the 10 or 15 minutes of having to call, a customer service line, waiting on hold, speaking to one person, maybe another person. I can do that for them and then get the information back to them.
And a question that I had was told to ask was like, are insurance premiums tax deductible?
Well, that's a trick question. In fact, I reached out to my accountant, and he gave me a nice little thing that I could certainly read from. But let's see here. Our tax depends on some things. Okay. And I want to make sure I have all the information. But certainly you always want to check with your tax professional. Okay. And if anybody needs one, I got a great guy. You can text business to 21,000. His name is Mark Collini. He'll take great care of you. But it basically depends on the way you're structured. Okay. Your business is structured. That will determine whether or not it is tax deductible. Okay. But it's always good to check with a professional accountant or bookkeeper. They will not steer you wrong. Okay.
Yeah. So were you going to read this statement, or do you?
Well, you know what? I can. Yeah, let me pull that up.
I know it's all technology. That's okay, and we can post that on the comments as well. I know it's hard to maneuver through the monitors and everything. So what happens if you don't have health insurance? You think like, I'm good, I can't afford it, or I'm in good health, I'm not going to need it. What happens? Are you penalized? Are you required to have it?
Well, there was a time when there was a penalty. Okay, if you did not have an ACA plan specifically, they've since done away with that mandate. So you're not taxed if you don't have health coverage. However, what I always warn people is the health coverage. It's gotten muddled over the last 10 to 15 years. Okay, originally health insurance in general was designed to protect you from catastrophic things. Okay. Nowadays, the last 5 or 10 years, people are under the assumption it has to cover everything. Every doctor visit. It's not designed to do that. Okay. It's designed to be there. And the biggest question people need to ask themselves is, if something major happens, how is that going to impact me or my family financially? Are we going to, do we have the money in savings, right? Right now, one of the biggest things that's scaring people, whether it be online or in the media, is the COVID virus, right? Yeah. And rightfully so. It's very dangerous and very contagious. Now, what you hear most of all is, oh my goodness, if you get it, you're going to be, not only admitted to the hospital, but put in the ICU, put on a ventilator. Right. What people don't realize is, if you're put on a ventilator, you're not leaving that hospital for 30 days or more, okay? And medical bills after being in the hospital for 30 days in the ICU on a ventilator, you're talking high 6, low 7 digits easily. Okay. If you don't have that money set aside, your only option is going to be bankruptcy. But, in order to file bankruptcy, you're going to have to liquidate assets. Okay. And that includes retirements, 401k. Is that something that you're ready to do after you spent the last 20 years of your life building that stuff up? So the key is, you want to make sure you're protected should worst case scenario happen. And do you have the right level of protection? Because a lot of people think, oh, I've got catastrophic coverage. They don't realize maybe, that particular plan only covers up to $1 million. Mm-hmm. Well, that may not be enough. Okay. You always want to make sure the coverage that you have, you're aware of it and you're okay with it.
Okay. So I want to also kind of bring up on your social media pages, I like how you're not just talking about health insurance, because sometimes it's really difficult to understand, or if you already have it. I like how you also talk about quality of life and taking care of yourself. So how important is that to you?
Well, it's extremely important to me. Okay. When it comes to health, yes, I help people find, affordable health coverage, but health is a declining. If we do nothing, all it does is decline as we get older, right? So it's important to either maintain a level of health or strive to get a better health. Okay. Ultimately, that's just going to benefit you in so many different ways, not just medical bills, because you're going to have less doctor visits, right? Less sick visits, possibly less injuries, but it just creates a better lifestyle. So I'm all about improving your lifestyle. And That's why I have those daily posts on my Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, you name it.
Yeah, I know I've gotten some like really great motivational tips, but also like some recipes and stuff. So I do like that because sometimes we do depend on going, the doctors and pills and everything to help with our health, but really we need to be working on ourselves. We have a question.
Well, I do have to say one other thing though. I got to be honest. The health tips, that's mostly me, but all the other fun stuff, the recipes and the really, I'm saying the really good content, that's my wife. She is my social media marketing manager, and she does a lot of research in the background to make sure that content is good. So I got to give credit where credit's due. That's all my wife.
Awesome. No, yes. Thank you so much. Cause I love it. Like I love going on there and seeing what kind of positive, motivational stuff that you're going to share with us. So Ray Baker is saying, as things have changed for the independent contractors, the contract workers, what are your suggestions?
As things have changed. Okay. Well, I do work with a lot of self-employed independent contractors. I definitely, it depends on what they do. Okay. But I recommend get with a professional. Okay. Find somebody, whether it be me or somebody else that you trust, that they can show you the different plan options that are available to you. And because that is one of the trick boxes, you as a independent contractor, they don't necessarily qualify for coverage through the person that they're working for because of the nature of them being a 1099. So, but that also falls back on the other question you asked early on. As a 1099, if they're structured correctly, all the premiums they're paying for that health coverage could be tax deductible, ultimately saving them money in the long run.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate it. Joe, is there any other wealth of knowledge that you can bestow on us today? I love how you broke it down because honestly, I have my card, I know I bring it in to the, every doctor's visit, but having to understand it, sometimes I don't process, I didn't take the time to learn it. So I really do appreciate that. But is there anything else that you want to share with us for people out there who just are still kind of confused by this whole process?
Well, if you're confused, I'm just going to say it again. Find a professional you trust. Okay, somebody that's going to look out for your interests and not their own. The other thing is if you don't have coverage, I strongly urge get some kind of coverage. Right, something is better than nothing. It doesn't have to be the best to be adequate, but something is better than nothing because it's the old Murphy's adage, right? If it can happen, it will. And it oftentimes happens when you least expect it. You leave the house without the umbrella, what happens? It rains. Okay. You don't have to have the biggest umbrella to stop from getting wet. You just have something. So, get with a trusted professional.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all your information. I'll be checking with you tomorrow to see what new fun stuff you and Diana are going to share with us. And for those of you out there who have any questions for Joe, post them below. This will stay on our page and all his information is posted above. So yes, find that trusted professional. Joe's your guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. Insurance Guy Joe, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram.
See, he's easy to reach. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Shad. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.